Hello, Math 2 students. You should be in an assignment that looks something like this and watching the video at the same time. So what you're going to want to do is create two different windows and have the video going in one and then have your slideshow or your slide presentation in the other, so you can complete these notes with me as you go. So you should have Ed Puzzle open to your assignment. If you're watching this video, of course, you're in the right place. And then you should have the assignment in a different window. So, and you know how to do that better than I do, I'm sure. Now, if you did not tune in to the live lesson today, the first thing you need to do is go back to the Canvas homepage, click on first grading period. This is the easiest way to get here. And then week 1.1. And then what you're going to see is something that looks like this. I haven't put these things in there yet, but it will be there by the time you look at it. Under this live lesson right here, there will be a video for you to watch. So you need to do that first and follow along with that video first, because if you did not participate in the live lesson today, you missed out on a lot of information. So you need to do that first. And then, excuse me, there's a Google form right here you're going to do, and then you're going to do I'm sorry, then you're going to do the assignment along with the video. So again, for those of you who are in the right place and you participated in the live lesson today, you're going to want to have Ed Puzzle over here and your slideshow over here. And what you would have done is clicked on the assignment here, and I'm going to just show you. You should have seen linear review notes. If you haven't done this yet, you can do it now. And then you're going to click here to open it in a new window. And it won't look exactly like mine, but it should look similar to this. And you will have a submit button over here. So once you finished this slideshow and finished doing the notes in it, you will click submit, and then it will show up for me, and I will be able to give you credit for doing this. These are your notes for this lesson. So I am going to do my best to make sure that everything that I can make electronic, I'm going to make it electronic and online. The reason for that is because there are students who won't be at school at all. And then there are, every one of you will only be at school one day a week. And it's just so hard to keep up and make sure that everybody has the handouts that they need, that I'm going to attempt to make everything online that I can. If we have notes that are not online, they will be notes that you can take on notebook paper and then send me a picture of them. So what you're going to be doing with this, and I'm gonna switch over to my set of slides in a minute, but you are going to be going to each slide, and there will be like, these are drag and drop, and then we're going to fill in something here, and we're going to drag this dot to where it goes, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do that together. There are, how many slides total? There are 14 slides total, so we're going to get through this hopefully in 20 to 30 minutes. So go ahead and either scroll down or click on the second slide and look at that with me. All right, so if you remember from Math 1, and you should have learned this like 7th, 8th grade math as well, so you should have seen this for a few years in a row, really. This is called a coordinate plane. And also, so let's, what you want to do is you want to come over here to the x-axis and make sure you've got these 4 arrows so you can drag this. You can drag it over to the coordinate plane. If you come in here like this, you see how my cursor is just there, and if you do that, it's gonna highlight the letters. So click off of it, and then make sure you've got the 4 arrows, and then we're just going to drag this over here and mark that x-axis. And don't want to put it in the middle, because we're going to be putting something else in the middle right there. The y-axis is the vertical axis. The origin, if you remember, the origin is 0, 0, and that is right there in the middle, so we're going to put that right in the middle. The quadrants, there are 4 quadrants in this coordinate plane, and we always start with the upper right hand corner. That's where everything's positive. All the numbers are positive there. So let's grab that quadrant 1, and we're going to drag it over here. Quadrant 2, we're going to move counterclockwise. That's what we call this, moving in a circle like this. So quadrant 2 is right here. Quadrant 3 is down here where everything's negative. So left and down, that's a negative direction. So my x is negative and my y is negative in quadrant 3. And then quadrant 4 is this one over here. All right, looking over here, I'm going to give you 2 points. So I want you to click on this X and either backspace or highlight it and backspace. The point is going to be 4. And then the y value, the y coordinate, we're going to put in a -2. All right, so go ahead and do that. Oh, and then, well, that made it too big for my text box. Let me see if I can, if yours did that, you can just make it smaller like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag this red dot to where 4, 2 would be. So remember, we start right here at the origin. The 4 tells me to go right 4 because that's the X. So we're either going to go left or right. And left is a negative direction. So this would be -1, -2, -2, and so on. So we're going to go right 4 and then down 2 because we're going negative. So that red dot needs to go right there. So go grab that red circle and drag it down to 4, -2. So that's where I want to see that when I look at your notes. Okay, look at slide 3 with me. Okay, so this time we've been given, excuse me, the points 2, 3, and 4, 1, and we need to plot those. And what I've done again is I've given you a little circle to drag down here. 2, 3. Okay, so the X is 2 and the Y is 3, and they're both positive. So that means I'm going to go right 2 and then up 3. So my red dot needs to go right there. So you can come down here, right 2, up 3 should be about right there. Okay, and then my next one is 4, 1. So drag the yellow down here and go to the right 4 and then up 1. So that one goes right there. So that's what that should look like. And that's a little bit off, but I don't really care as long as I see that you've gotten it about right. What quadrant are these points located in? Well, if I go back over here and I look and see what did I put up there? That's quadrant 1. Quadrant 1 is where all the numbers are positive. So both the X and the Y would be positive. You can just put a 1 in there if you want. When the X and the Y are both positive, the point will be located in quadrant. Again, you can highlight this, click backspace, and then type in a 1 again. Okay, let's look at these. -1, 2. Okay, grab that red dot, go down to the origin. -1 is left 1 and then up 2. Okay, so there's that one. Grab the yellow dot. -3, 1. That's left 3, up 1. Okay. So what quadrant are both of these points in? And remember, this was quadrant 1 right here. If we go counterclockwise, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be quadrant 2. So highlight it, backspace, and type in 2, and then the same thing down here. So when you've got a negative X and a positive Y, the point is going to be located in quadrant 2. Okay, so go ahead and click on slide 4. And what I would encourage you to do right now is I would encourage you to pause your video and try these 2 sections right here. This one is negative, negative, and this one's positive, negative. So I want you to try these 2 and then come back, and I'll have the answers in here so you can check and see how you did. Okay, so if you pause the video and then you filled this in and you came back, this is what it should have looked like. Your red here would be here and yellow here, and this is quadrant 3. And then both of these points ended up in quadrant 4. So if you have 2 negatives, a negative X and negative Y, that point is always going to be in quadrant 3. If you have a positive X and a negative Y, that point will always be in quadrant 4. Okay, so go ahead and click on the next slide, and I'm going to pause mine and fill these in, and then I'm going to let you do the same. Okay, so you can see what I did. I filled in this table. So sometimes we're given a table, and these are the same as ordered pairs. So pause your video and fill in your table, and then come back and we'll fill in the ordered pairs together. Okay, so you should have your table filled in. The x values and the y values are exactly the same as the x values and the y values in ordered pairs. So if you see these, you don't really need the ordered pairs. You can plot these points from the ordered pairs. If you want, though, you can highlight and then just type in an 8. You don't even have to backspace or anything. And -2, highlight 7. Yeah, those look right. Okay, so what our instructions are to plot these points in the coordinate plane below. Okay, so these circles are kind of big, but we're going to put them about where they go. Your point should end up being something like that. Okay, so let's talk about linear equations. This right here is a linear equation, and I want you, yours says type here, so I want you to highlight that and type in y equals 3x plus 5. So what we do with a linear equation is sometimes we'll make a table. There is an easier way to do this, but I just want to show you first that sometimes you're asked to make a table with the linear equation. This equation will make a line. Like if we went over to Desmos and we typed this in, we would get a straight line. But let's make our table first. When we need to make an XY table, what we typically do is we start with something like -2. And then we go to -1. These are all our x values, and we're going to plug in each of these in this equation to get our y value. So if I plug in a -2 for the x, that's going to give me my y value. Now I'm going to go over to my Smart Notes because I can't write on these Google Slides. So I had y equals 3x plus 5. So what I would do is I would take that -2 and I would fill that in for the x and then just do the math. So that would mean y would equal, that's going to be a -6. 3 times -2 is -6 plus 5. That's -1. So then I'll go back over to my slide and type in a -1 for y. So if x is -2, y is -1. Okay. Now let's see if we can do these in our head without writing them down. If x is -1, 3 times -1 is -3, plus 5 is 2. So I'd have a 2 right here. Okay. If x is 0, 3 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5, so that means y would be 5. So then what we would be asked to do, and we could make the ordered pairs. I'm not really going to worry about this in the interest of time. So if you don't fill these in, that's okay. We can plot those points from the table. So our first point, our red point, is going to be -2, -1. So let's go over here to the origin, count left 2, down 1. Okay. All right, I'm going to show you something else because you really don't have to plot all of these points. If you do plot all of them correctly, they should make a line. So we're going to see. I draw a line. I should get close because these are big circles. They're not points. So yeah, that's a line. That's what that line would look like. I don't even need to do the green one. If I did it, I should be, let's see, that was 8, 9, 10, 11 right there. So it's close. My points are a little bit off. Anyway, so that's how we would do that if we were given the linear equation and told to make a table. All right, let's move on to 7. And what I would encourage you to do right now is pause your video. Actually, I need to give you the equation first. Let me give you the equation. Y equals -2x minus 1. So let's type that in. Y equals -2x minus 1. All right, so type that in, and then I want you to pause your video and get this table filled in. Now you're going to do a -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So go ahead and fill that in, and then remember you're gonna plug in a -2 for x and then a -1 for x. So I want you to try that and come back, and I'll have the y's filled in. See if you can do what we did on the last slide. Okay, so this is what I got when I plugged in my x values for x and I solved for y. So I got -2, 3, so that's the red one, -1, 1, 0, -1, 1, -3, and 2, -5, and it's kind of a line. Again, these are a little bit bigger than points would be, so it's kind of hard to make a perfect straight line with these. So that's what it should look like. I am going to skip slide 8. So what you can do if you like is you can just put a big X. Just use your line tool and put a big X through slide 8 because I think we've done enough with that we're good. So if you want to do that, that just indicates to me that I told you that we weren't going to do that slide. All right, look at slide 9. So the title of this slide is Graphing Equations in Only One Variable. In other words, it's not a y equals something. It is an x equals a number or y equals a number. And on this one, I want you to type in a -3. So x equals, excuse me, -3. Thought I had highlighted it. I guess I didn't. -3. So type that in. And then what this tells me is that it doesn't matter what y equals, x is always going to be -3. So x is -3. Let's type in a -3 here. And let's just do that all the way down. And then so no matter what I put in there for y, the x is always going to be -3. So I could choose -2 here, -1, 0, and I don't even have to finish this. If I know that x is always -3, I should put 0 there, sorry. If x is always -3, then that means no matter what y is, x is always going to be right here. So what this ends up looking like is it is a vertical line, and it's at that x equals -3 point. So I grabbed my line tool up here, and I just went from x equals -3 here and then put my line all the way down. It's just a vertical line at x is -3. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to type in y equals, let me see what my key has for this one, y equals 5. And I'm not even going to do that that chart. I'm not going to do that xy table because I don't need to. If y equals -5, well, where is y equals -5? Y equals -5 is up 5 from the origin. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So no matter what x equals, y is always going to be -5. So if you see a y equals and then just a number, not a 3x plus 5 or whatever, but just y equals 5, that is a horizontal line. So it's actually a little bit easier before I click off of it. But I went from the x-axis, I went up 5, and then I just drew a horizontal line. So if it's x equals a number, it's going to be a vertical line. If it's y equals a number, it's going to be a horizontal line. Okay, slide 10. Okay, so what is slope? So we're going to talk about what the slope of a line is. So backspace that, type here, and then we're going to type right here. Slope is rise over run, and I'm sure you've heard that before. And when I say over, I mean like a fraction bar, but we're not going to be able to draw that. You can think of it as how many spaces up and over you would have to move from one point to another point on a line. So you take your time and type all that in. You might type faster than I do. So we describe lines as having a positive slope, a negative, a 0, or an undefined slope. Okay, so a positive slope, what that looks like is as you move from left to right, the line goes up because you know up is a positive direction. So as you move from left to right, or we'll say moves up from left to right. Okay, then I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to show it on this graph over here. An example of a line that would have a positive slope would be y equals 2x. So type that in right there. And then let's get our line tool again. A positive slope. So as I move left to right, I need that line to be moving in the upward direction. So that's what a positive slope would look like. A negative slope means that it moves down from left to right. Remember, down is a negative direction. So if you think about that, that is a negative slope. An equation that would have a negative slope would be y equals negative 4x. And we're not going to necessarily draw the 4x, that slope right here, but let's just draw an example of what a negative slope would look like. So grab your line tool again. We're going to start up here, and as we go from left to right, we're going to go in a down direction. So that's what a negative slope looks like. A zero slope means that it stays the same from left to right. And an equation with a zero slope would be, remember how we did the y equals earlier? Y equals 3 would be a zero slope. And that would look something like this. It would be a horizontal line. And then an undefined slope is your vertical line. So it's just, we'll just write vertical, and then you can write up and down if you want to. And so an equation that would have a vertical slope or up and down line would be x equals negative 2. And so we'll get our line tool again and just draw a vertical, or as close as we can get it, a vertical line. Okay, so we're going to do this slide, and then we are going to save the last 3 for class tomorrow. So at the beginning of class tomorrow during the live lesson, I'm going to go over the rest of them with you. So just get slide 11 done. Let me get back to it. Okay, so let's say that you're given a point, and I gave you the point negative 1, 1 on this slide, and I gave you the slope. And then I asked you down here, what does this tell me? What does this slope tell me? Well, what it tells me is that from the point given, which is that negative 1, 1, you will move up 1 and right 4 from that point. So we're going to take this red dot and we're going to go to the negative 1, 1. So that's going to be left 1, up 1. Okay. And then we're going to take the yellow one and we're going to go from there and mark the slope. Okay. So from that red one, we're going to go up 1 and to the right 4. 1, 2, 3, about right there. Okay. And then I've got a line right here that I gave you, and I don't know if this is going to be, I think this might work. So put that line on that red dot and then drag the end of it up until it crosses that yellow dot. Oh, that's not going to work very well. Let me see. That didn't work very well. It would probably be better for you to draw your own line, but that's close right there. So what you could do too is you could take your line tool and go from here and then go like that, and that would work a whole lot. That would be a whole lot easier. So anyway, mine's not exactly right. So we're going to stop here, and we will do the rest of the slides 12, 13, and 14 during class tomorrow at the beginning. So be sure you get this many done, and tune in tomorrow for the live lesson if you're not going to be in class tomorrow. Have a good night.